3 months ago, my son was found dead in his apartment. The police said it was a heart attack. I tried to believe them. But everything changed the night I stopped in a small, forgotten town during a lonely road trip. There was an old video rental store across from my motel, glowing in the dark like it was waiting for me. I rented a VHS tape from a young cashier with a strange scar on his neck. But when I returned to my room and pressed play, the tape didn't show a movie. It showed memories from my past, private family moments that were destroyed years ago in a house fire. Then, the videos became darker. I discovered secrets about my daughter, the truth behind the fire. And finally, I watched my son die on camera, and the person standing beside him during his final moments was my own daughter. I never thought the longest journey of my life would also become the most terrifying. My name is Sarah. I'm 50 years old, and for most of my life, I dreamed of taking a long road trip across the country. But life never gave me the chance. Then my son died, and after that, nothing mattered anymore. My son's name was Hamza. After my divorce, he stayed with me, while my daughter, Aisha, chose to live with her father. Over the years, she became colder toward me, almost like I no longer existed in her life. But Hamza never changed. He always smiled and said, "One day, Mom, I'll take you on the trip you've always wanted." That day never came. He was only 29 when he was found dead in his apartment. The doctors called it a heart attack, but something about it never felt right to me. After his funeral, I spent weeks watching old videos of him on my phone. His laughter echoed through my empty house every night, until the silence became unbearable. That's when I finally left. I packed my bags, started my car, and began driving with no destination in mind. For the first few days, everything felt normal. I stopped in different towns, slept in cheap motels, and tried to convince myself that the road would somehow heal me. It didn't. Then one night, everything changed. I had been driving through an empty highway for hours when the fuel warning light appeared on my dashboard. The road around me was completely dark, with nothing except trees and abandoned fields stretching into the distance. Then I saw an old rusted sign beside the road. Blackwood, 4 miles. I turned off the highway. The town looked dead. Every building was dark except for a tiny gas station near the entrance. Its flickering lights barely illuminated the empty parking lot. I stepped inside. Behind the counter stood a young man wearing a faded blue jacket. There was a strange scar on the side of his neck, almost circular, like an old wound. "How much gas?" he asked in a dull voice. $40. I replied quietly. He stared at me for several uncomfortable seconds before taking the money. Then he leaned slightly forward and whispered, "You shouldn't stay here tonight." A chill ran through my body. I quickly left the station and filled my tank, trying to ignore the feeling that someone was watching me from inside the store. But I was exhausted. A few minutes later, I found an old motel near the center of town. The room looked ancient. Yellow wallpaper peeled from the walls. The furniture smelled damp, and an old tube television sat on top of a wooden dresser. Beside it was something I hadn't seen in years, a VHS player. I almost laughed at how outdated the place felt. Then I noticed something through the window. Across the street stood a small shop glowing beneath a flickering neon sign. Moonlight Video, a video rental store. In 2026. Curiosity got the better of me. I crossed the street and stepped inside. The store smelled like dust and burned plastic. Shelves filled with old tapes stretched into the darkness. Everything looked abandoned. As I wandered through the aisles, one tape caught my attention. It was an old animated movie Hamza used to watch as a child. Without thinking, I grabbed it and walked to the counter. That's when my blood froze. The cashier was the same young man from the gas station. This time he smiled. $5, he said softly. I paid quickly and hurried back to the motel without saying another word. Inside my room, I kept trying to convince myself the two men were probably brothers. Still uneasy, I pushed the tape into the VCR. At first, the movie played normally. Then the screen suddenly filled with static. I frowned. A second later, my husband's old voice echoed from the television. "She's beautiful, Sarah." My heart stopped. The screen showed footage from the day Hamza was born. Me, holding him in the hospital. Tears filled my eyes instantly. Those tapes were destroyed years ago in a house fire. Yet there they were. Every memory. Hamza's first birthday, his first steps, Christmas mornings, family dinners. Every moment of my children growing up played one after another, exactly as I remembered them. I cried harder with every scene. But eventually, I noticed something strange. Whenever Aisha looked directly at the camera, the image distorted slightly, like the tape itself rejected her presence. Then a video appeared that I had never seen before. Teenage Hamza stood in a bedroom arguing with his sister. "What is this?" he shouted, while holding a small plastic bag. "Give it back!" Aisha screamed. "This stuff can ruin your life." "You're not my father," she yelled. "Stay out of my business." Hamza looked heartbroken. "I'm trying to help you." The video abruptly cut to static. Then another clip appeared. My old house at night. An orange glow slowly spread through one of the windows. The fire. My breathing stopped. A figure ran out of the house just before the flames exploded through the roof. Even through the grainy footage, I recognized her instantly. Aisha. My entire body went numb. Before I could even process it, another video began. This one took place inside Hamza's apartment, shortly before his death. Hamza and Aisha sat together drinking and laughing. For a moment, it looked peaceful. Then Aisha walked into the kitchen. The camera followed her. She opened her bag and removed a syringe. My hands started shaking violently. Back in the living room, Hamza was slurring his words and barely conscious. "I missed you, sis," he mumbled drunkenly. Aisha knelt beside him, calmly. "I know," she whispered. Then she injected something into his arm. I screamed at the television. Hamza suddenly began convulsing on the floor. Foam spilled from his mouth as he reached desperately toward his sister for help. But she just watched him die. After several horrifying seconds, he stopped moving. Aisha stared down at his body and quietly whispered, "Mom will get the insurance money first, but I'll figure something out." The screen went black. The VHS tape ejected itself from the player. I grabbed the tape and ran out of the motel toward the video store. But when I reached it, I nearly collapsed. The building was destroyed. Broken windows, burned walls, dust everywhere. It looked abandoned for years. I slowly stepped inside. An old television, sitting on the counter, suddenly flickered on by itself. The young man appeared on the screen. "Check her messages," he said calmly. "She didn't delete everything." Then the television shut off. I stumbled back to the motel and demanded answers from the manager. The woman turned pale the moment I described the young man. "You saw Daniel?" she whispered. "Yes." Her eyes filled with tears. "My son died 2 years ago during a robbery at that video store. He was shot in the throat before the building burned down. I couldn't breathe." The woman looked at the VHS tape in my trembling hands. "If he showed you something," she whispered, "then it was the truth." The next morning, I drove home without stopping once. I found Aisha's old messages. Then I found her boyfriend. It didn't take long before he confessed everything. The drugs, the fire, Hamza's murder. My daughter was arrested 3 days later. Months after the trial, she was sentenced to life in prison. I thought it was finally over. I was wrong. Because the same night the verdict was announced, I found another VHS tape sitting outside my front door. With shaking hands, I inserted it into the player. The screen flickered. Hamza appeared. He stared directly into the camera. Then, he quietly said, "Mom, don't watch the next tape." The screen went black, and from somewhere behind me, I heard the sound of another VHS tape sliding out of the player.